Hi folks, I hope you're still enjoying your work on the Aztecs. I've had lots of lovely work in from you. Thanks very much for all those people who've been sending it in. We've done lots of different areas of Aztec life, from the Great Temple to the things that Aztecs got up to, their fun, their games, how children carried on, and the things that they liked to do. And we've also looked at law and order and some of those rather drastic punishments for things like cutting down a tree or getting drunk. So I've really enjoyed looking at your work, and I've got another task for you which I'd like to talk about in a moment. But just before I do that, I thought I'd just have a little look at how the Aztecs decided where they were originally going to settle. Their capital city, as I'm sure you know, was in a place called Tenochtitlan, which was actually in the middle of a lake, which seems an extraordinary place to build a capital city. Now, legend has it that there's a very good reason for why they chose that lake. It was actually a lake called Texcoco. And the legend says that when an Aztecs, as they were roaming around in the Valley of Mexico, looking for a place to settle, the legend was when they see an eagle on a cactus with a snake in its talons or its claws, that would be the place where they would build their city. And apparently, this creature, the eagle, was spotted in a cactus with a snake in its talons. And where was it? Smack in the middle of Lake Texcoco. And that is the reason why the Aztecs selected that as the location for their capital city. Now, I said it was a legend, and it may well be that that wasn't the case. There's a strong argument to say actually that didn't happen, and they probably chose the lake because it was land that other people weren't using, it was available, and that's why they chose it. I think that might be true, because if you know much about geography, you might know that lakes and cacti don't necessarily go together, but that's another story. I think it's rather a nice legend, and maybe there is something in it, because I've just thought, if you Google after this the Mexican flag, have a little look what's in the middle of it, because I think there's three stripes, a white stripe, a green stripe and a red stripe, and in the middle there's a little motif, and I think you could probably work out from what I'm saying what that is. Yup, it's an eagle on a cactus with a snake in its talons. So there we have it. Right, on to your next task, which I'd like you to do. And this time, I've not provided a sheet for you, because I know that you've done a number of these sheets. Many of you have done them beautifully well. Others have decided that you'd prefer not to use the sheet at all, which I'm also delighted about. And this time, that's what I want you to do. I want everyone to do this in the book or on paper, rather than on one of my sheets. And the subject is Warriors and War, and you'll find the page on Firefly, and it's all about Aztec warriors and how they behaved, what they wore, and it is absolutely fascinating. I mean, remember, these are the people that like to play board games and dance and listen to music and and play with a ball and try and get it through a hoop. Lots of the things that we like doing. But the Aztecs were also very different from us. If you look at that section, the first thing that I noticed really is what they were wearing. I mean, they dressed as animals, jaguars, eagles. They painted their faces. They wore all sorts of strange outfits. They carried shields with feathers attached to them. Absolutely incredible. And of course, they were forever at war, like human beings throughout history. The Aztecs were a very violent group of people. They invaded other tribes. They were invaded by other tribes. They had an army to try to help them to defend themselves. Again, just reading this section, I mean, I've noticed that they were using pretty primitive weapons. They had a club, a bit like a cricket bat. I think you come across this when you were looking at how children were trained to be warriors. It's like a cricket bat, only when the adults were using it, the warriors were using it, it had sharpened glass, a natural glass called obsidian, rammed into the edges of it, so that if you use that on your enemy, boy, would he know about it. They also had spears, bows and arrows. The spears, incidentally, they had a special way of launching the spear using a thing called an atlatl, which apparently enabled them to throw the spear further than with just a normal throw. The only parallel I can come up with that is sometimes I see people walking a dog and they want to throw the ball as far as they can, so they have an extender and they hurl the ball a long way. And I think the Aztecs had discovered some sort of mechanism, possibly similar to that, to allow them to throw their spear even further. So they dressed as animals. They were pretty fearsome looking bunch. One thing that you won't see on that section on Warriors and War is you won't see any guns. The Aztecs haven't developed gunpowder or explosives, and so their weapons are fairly primitive, and that of course is very important, because when the Spanish invaded as they did, and I know some people have actually got on to studying the end of the Aztec period, the Aztecs were wiped out when Spain sent ships across the Atlantic to Mexico. They met with the Aztecs, they fought with the Aztecs, and of course because the Spanish had gunpowder, they were able to defeat the Aztecs, because fearsome as these warriors were, terrifying they might have looked with their jaguar costumes and eagle costumes, I'm afraid a spear or a cricket bat with glass rammed into the edges of it is no match for a gun. And that was really why the Aztecs eventually died out. So, I'll wind this up now. But listen, I think you've done some lovely work for me. This is an opportunity now for you to do it your way. Do some written work for me. Make some notes on the kind of things that they did. Talk about their clothing, talk about the different animals that they dressed up as. Have a look at the picture and use some of the information around the picture to help you. I'm looking here at arrow tips that were edged with a razor-sharp rock. Aztec officers had feather standards strapped to their backs. And there's all sorts here. A good Aztec warrior didn't kill his enemy. He captured him. How about that? I wonder if you can work out why they would prefer to capture an enemy than actually kill them in battle. I think it's because if you took a prisoner, you were going to take him back to the Pyramid Temple, and you know what they did on those Pyramid Temples. So it was a pretty grisly end for your prisoner that was taken captive in battle. Do some drawings for me. I love looking at your illustrations, and I'm sure you're going to do a lovely piece of work for me, and I hope you send it, and I'll write you a comment back, and I hope you enjoy it. So thanks very much for listening, and if you call your section Warriors and War, I look forward to seeing it. Okay, take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.